In this episode of Music Geology, we unearth the best recorded moment of Adagio for strings.
Music Geology.
What's that? That's where we dig deep into rock and beyond to find sonic gems lasting only a few seconds, but just long enough to give us goosebumps. Alright, we're going to take you back now to 1986 to the soundtrack from the Oliver Stone film, Platoon, which was based on the Vietnam War and starred Charlie Sheen among many other fine actors. This soundtrack was unique in the fact that the majority of its music was pre-written, and we're not just talking about the popular songs from the Vietnam era, but also the score. You see, Oliver Stone hired a French film composer by the name of Georges Delerue, and even though he wrote many of the incidental cues heard throughout the film, his main task was to adapt a masterpiece written in the earlier part of the 20th century by the composer Samuel Barber. This well-known composition is often used as a eulogy for veterans. It's titled Adagio for strings, and before Georges Delerue got his hands on it, it actually already went through its own adaptation by the composer himself. Samuel Barber originally wrote it for a string quartet, but then decided to arrange it for a string orchestra in 1936. It's one of our favorite compositions, and without a full string section, it just doesn't have the same effect as a quartet, and we'll demonstrate this point in a moment. For now, we want to play you the most amazing excerpt out of any of the recordings of Samuel Barber's Adagio for strings we've ever heard. Why? Because these few seconds we're referring to happened by chance as a result of the violin section being essentially perfectly out of sync. Now, one could argue this wasn't the intention of Samuel Barber, but we do believe it makes for the perfect moment in his piece in resolving what is essentially the dissonance between just a few notes. So who are the musicians behind the best recording of Adagio for strings? It's the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra, which was recorded at Little Mountain Sound Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia. The acoustic environment of the studio also lends to the quality of this recording because it's not a very large scoring stage. In fact, it could barely accommodate a full string section. The rest of an orchestra would never even fit. Keep in mind, due to aggressive copyright restrictions, regardless of the fair use doctrine, we are only able to play a short segment of this piece, just enough to show off the quality of the performance and recording. Here's the excerpt from the original soundtrack of Platoon. It occurs at measure 26 for the musicians out there, and the notes are C flat to a B flat. Yes, a C flat. This is in the key of B flat minor. Pay close attention as the descent happens out of sync as the violins take a half step down and eventually resolve on an A flat. Now let's play that again. You can hear the violas lay this up perfectly with their E flat. Who'd ever thought that just two notes could be so amazing? Now, while your memory is fresh, take a listen to the contrast of the raw nature of a string quartet. This is a performance by the Emerson String Quartet. Not only are you missing that perfect dissonance, but the harmonic warmth is absent and that descent is just ordinary. So this is what we think, but what's your opinion? If you have a comment, we'd like to hear from you. And if you have any suggestions about other sonic gems, let us know right here on Music Geology.